Hi everyone, I'm James Bell, Head of the Clinical Negligence Department here at Kingsley Napley, and I'm very pleased to welcome here today Paul Whiting of AVMA. AVMA are a charity who help victims of medical accidents, and it's a great opportunity to speak to Paul today to talk about the wonderful work that AVMA do. So hello Paul, and please tell me about you and all the wonderful work you do at AVMA.
Yeah, so thank you, James. So this happens to be my first anniversary, 1 year at AVMA. So it's been a great first year, really enjoyed it. Great trustees, great staff, and great supporters, including your good selves. My background has got nothing to do with medical law, practice, or anything of that nature. I was actually a financial ombudsman before I joined AVMA a year ago. And you might wonder, what has that got to do with AVMA? Well, actually, what I was doing as an ombudsman was helping people up against big organisations trying to get an acknowledgement, an apology, an understanding of mistakes that happened, and some sort of redress. So actually, there is a big read across to what we do at AVMA.
Yeah.
And we do that, of course, all the time through our helpline, through our casework. We speak to thousands of people a year who have been avoidably harmed by some form of medical incident, accident, or whatever it might be. And we try to signpost them, help them, support them, and get them what they're looking for, whatever that might be.
Yeah. I'm very familiar. Obviously, we have staff who help out on the AVMA helpline. So you're often the very first point of contact for people who've been harmed negligently, and the next stop for them is contact with AVMA. And they may have been signposted by the NHS frequently to AVMA. So you're playing a crucial function there in the first independent people that deal with people who've been quite badly harmed often. And that sort of takes us into duty of candour, because like yourselves, we get people coming to us holding a letter which says something went wrong. And so let's just have a quick chat about the duty of candour. It's coming up for 10 years now, isn't it?
That's right.
Just what's AVMA's experience of how well that's worked?
I think it's quite mixed. The government have just announced a review of the duty of candour, which I think we very much welcome. And although they're not inviting us to comment on that, they're not inviting any patient organisation to comment, I think we will, because I think we've got something to say about that. My worry about the duty of candour is that organisations like the NHS have transposed it into a process. So we have people often coming to us saying, I've got my duty of candour letter.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to people in the NHS who talk about the process of the letter generation. And of course, it's bigger than that. It's much more important than the letter itself. It's about the process of candour, openness, honesty, transparency. And it's that I still see, and I think we still see at AVMA, as something that is deficient and lacking, sadly, in many of the cases we see. So I think it's a mixed scorecard at the moment, and I think the government are right to review it. And I think in reviewing it, one assumes and hopes that they're looking to improve it, not looking to water it down. That would be really disappointing.
Yeah. And I think the messaging around duty of candour is quite confused, and I think maybe people have lost sight of what it's actually for, and could it be improved to actually reduce costs? Because what I often find is people come to us with a duty of candour letter, a root cause analysis report, or a serious untoward incident report, and it goes so far in explaining that something's gone wrong. But what it could do would be to say, and this has caused this harm. And that would actually give a lot of vindication to clients. It would also save costs, because the lawyers wouldn't need to then go off and get expert opinion. But often what we get is half the story, and there hasn't been a sort of a deeper investigation, which might have saved a lot more costs.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think we see that, like you do, all the time with people. And actually, there is, quite rightly, a great pressure on costs around litigation and bringing claims against the NHS. We absolutely understand that. But often the NHS doesn't help itself. And like you, I agree that if the duty of candour was actually implemented properly and consistently, actually, people would have a much more meaningful explanation, understanding of what happened, and a meaningful apology. Many people want to move on with their life and close that sorry chapter behind them. They don't want to keep going, but they do keep going because they feel that they haven't had a proper explanation about what happened to them or their loved one, and they're entitled to that, it seems to me. So there is, I think, more that could be done with the duty of candour. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's somewhat patchy. Some NHS trusts are brilliant at following the script, as it were, and delivering those reports and so on. Other trusts are very much acting as if it's the 90s or early noughties, and it's you must prove everything, and there's no even duty of candour letter is even issued to those families. The other issue we see actually is the report is one thing, but then actually getting the documents behind the report, it's very hard to actually get hold of statements, underlying email chains, etc., all sorts of evidence that have underpinned the duty of candour report, and that can be quite a laborious process, and that can actually take months. So I think there's a lot to be said for, here's the report, here's the duty of candour letter, and here's all the statements from staff members as well, because often what we're having is people saying to us, well, I'd like to see the statements, and it's left to the lawyers to battle away with the records departments for months on end, sadly, to actually get the additional documents. So I would like to see a sort of open file, as it were. Obviously, litigation privilege stuff can be kept back, but there's a certain amount given to us, and then you have to fight for everything else, isn't it?
Which doesn't seem very helpful, because you're fighting for that is costing money. You know, and that's the very point of some of this, which is it's about trying to be, candour, openness, and actually save some cost, which is what everyone wants. So I mean, no one's winning from the example you just gave there, it seems to me. And actually, more openness and sharing of documents would actually be better for everyone, and would actually move things on faster.
Yeah, certainly. And it sort of the goodwill that's built up between the hospital staff and the parents is then sometimes undermined by the legal department saying, well, you can't have this document, you can't have that document. So all that trust and goodwill that's then sort of evaporates because the lawyers are involved, and things deteriorate somewhat, unfortunately. So, I mean, generally speaking, it's been a positive development. I think it has reduced costs, reduced trauma for families, but I think it could go further. And it is disappointing that that the government aren't speaking to people like yourselves or us as to how we think it's working, or how it's not even being implemented at all by certain NHS trusts, unfortunately, who are very old school in their thinking.
I think it's a missed opportunity to not have a proper review. I mean, given this is the duty of candour, the candour of reviewing it with everyone and openly would have been actually very helpful, I think.
Yeah.